Some Papa Roach for you, Lifeline. Hey, I'm Airman First Class Stephen Jarman. It is 8:15 a.m. and with me in the studio right now for What's Up Wednesday is our very own additional duty First Sergeant. Good morning, Master Sergeant Morse. What's up?
Good morning, Jarman. How you doing?
I'm doing great. And, we were talking today kind of on the topic of what we're talking about. Once a month, we have promotion ceremonies and things like that. And then on top of that, they also have the awards ceremony that goes along with it. And that's kind of like what we're going to talk about today is just kind of like different recognition programs.
Right.
And, like the quarterly awards, annual awards, the functional, different things that we have going out there. So kind of like, I guess one of the first things I want to ask is, it's like, why does the Air Force have these award programs?
Well, the biggest thing is to recognize superior performers. Being an active duty service member, it's a selfless, it's a volunteer force, and it's nice to recognize folks for all the hard work that they do. So
right. What kind of would you place the importance pretty high up there for like the military to have these kind of programs?
Oh yeah, I mean, without recognition, your morale can suffer in a unit. People's self-worth sometimes suffers. I mean, it really depends on how your people want to be recognized.
Right.
Some people want a pat on the back. Some people want an award. Some people, want more than that. So.
Yeah, it's true. It's kind of one of the, I guess it does. It kind of validates, your work efforts and things like that. Makes you feel like that what you're doing does matter. So I guess that it makes sense. So like that kind of leads me to my next question. How do we go about choosing people for awards? How do you go about like looking for nominees?
Well, you've got to be kind of careful with this because you want the awards to mean something. So you've got to take your bare minimum standards, the Air Force standards, and use that as a benchmark. And awards should be given to those that are above the standards or the best of the best. So essentially, you got to know your mission, you got to know your people, you got to know what they're involved with, and you got to be able to quantify it somehow. And then, at the end of the quarter, end of the month, end of the week or whatever, you've got to be able to just sit back and mull it over a little bit and go, hey, Airman so-and-so or Sergeant so-and-so has been doing awesome. I think I've got my next candidate for, a quarterly or other type of award.
Right. And, let's say just hypothetically you got two airmen going up for something and one did really good in this kind of area here. They did real good on their, they kind of exceeded that standard with like their self-improvement in their job. The other person is good at their job. Like, don't get me wrong, like they're they do everything they need to do, but let's say they volunteer all the time.
Right.
How do you kind of weigh those two things?
Well, sometimes that's difficult. One of the most important things in professional development is that whole person concept, and you hear that a lot. You hear it in PME.
Right.
I'm actually gonna read a couple things because yesterday I did a little research. I was reading the AFIs, making sure I had the right things in my brain before I got on the radio. There's an excerpt or subparagraph bullets in AFI 362805. And it lists a whole bunch of things, and I think it really captures the whole person concept. Now, the answer to your question is basically you want to pick the most rounded person.
Right.
So you want to pick somebody, and here's some examples out of the AFI. Participation in base and community activities, articulate and influential spokesperson for the Air Force. That's
oh, wow.
actually.
I didn't even think that kind of went into it.
Well, yeah, and that falls into your category, right?
Right.
Being on the radio, being able to articulate.
I'm good to go.
Yeah. Voluntary service in the Air Force. In Air Force-related organizations and activities.
Right.
Contributions to the states or the nation. Now, that's kind of a big one, but whatever your contributions are. Moral and religious leadership. Contributions to the resolution of contemporary social problems. Now, that one stuck out in my mind because we've been talking about dorms and stuff in the wing lately, and like, hey, that's ownership. And I know I had a meeting with you guys talking about, hey, let's try to own some of this stuff. Your bubble is basically your room, but expand your bubble. Maybe go do some projects later. That's actually would be in this category of contributing to the resolution of some social issues. Membership in professional organizations, self-improvement, and leadership and other accomplishments. So
it's kind of like just like you said, that whole person concept.
Yeah, but it's really it's a mouthful.
Yeah, I mean that's a lot there. And I guess while we're here, we can kind of kill some of those misconceptions because some of the things you hear, let's say like people are like, oh well, this person is more well known. Like people know him more, so of course he's going to get more notice. Of course he's going to win those awards. Is that something that is even taken into effect whenever you look for nominees? Like. We say, well, yeah, this person's known, but let's also look at what, I may not know this person as much, but let's look at what they do.
Right. One of my favorite words in professional philosophy and development is discretion. You know, everybody has discretion to make the decisions that they have to make based on the information they have in front of them.
Right.
And I believe it's a really good consideration that a leader would make is, you know, maybe someone's in that spotlight position where they always get attention from higher ups, but maybe that other person isn't. They're in the back office. You know, I'm a maintainer, so I'm used to that back office, you know, doing things behind the scenes,
right.
And sometimes being overlooked. But I don't think that would be the norm. I think the average leader out there would recognize that and just weigh it and consider it a little bit. You know, nobody's job is more important than anybody else's. You hear many leaders say that. We can only accomplish the mission together, and everybody's part in that is equally important. You know?
Right.
So, and the main point of recognition is recognizing people, because people make the mission. You know what I mean? So
it's almost, you know, just as much on the leaders to kind of know their people, you know, as well as it is on the people to be active.
Exactly.
So yeah, it's like a two-way conversation, really. You know, making sure that your airmen are doing what they need to do. But even if let's say like volunteer stuff, you're the type of person like even really myself. Contrary to popular belief, I don't like to be out there in the open. You know, hey, I'm fine in this radio studio right now because you can't see me.
Right.
But, you know, like being on stage, things like that, I'll do it. But I'd rather be behind the scenes. I'm a behind the camera kind of guy.
Right.
And so I volunteer, things like that, but it's never anything that's out there, like, you know, on the front lines, you know, and kind of thing. And some people do the same thing, only they are.
Well, and that's a good point, because I personally believe that you should only volunteer to do stuff that really you're doing it because you want to do it, not because you're doing it to fill a block or fill a square. Now, there's nothing wrong with that either, because that's a precursor to getting into some stuff that you like. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And it's all about development and getting yourself out there and being a positive community member. So for you, what I would say is just track it, you know, document it. You don't have to be in the spotlight all the time doing those key volunteer things. You can just do your own things on your own time, but if you're volunteering in the community, the biggest thing is just to let your supervisor know, you know, let your leadership know so they can recognize you. And if you're not out to look for recognition, at the very least, it's just letting them know what you're involved in. You
Exactly.
know?
It's more of a career thing.
Right.
Hey, we'll be talking more about this stuff. I'm going to take a quick break. We're going to listen to a couple songs. And, you know, right now we're talking about award programs, getting that recognition that you need. If you have any questions about it, we're going to try to answer those. But you can always hit us up on our Facebook page, facebook.com/AFNNinjaLake, or give us a call over here at 676-6491. We can take care of those questions for you, see what we can do. I have one of the men in here, the one man with all the answers. So, you know, definitely be able to try to do what we can. Right now, here's some Kesha. Come on, right after this little bit of a break.
If the person in the car next to